Before we get started with today's podcast, we'd like to ask returning listeners to leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast platform, iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you really enjoy it, share a link to this podcast with friends or family who would enjoy hearing our weekly discussions about basketball and basketball culture. Now, on to the show.
Jim, isn't it amazing when Michigan can keep this game to a 19-foot, 9-inch game inside that three-point line? It's all there. Nice move by Steve Fisher here. Turn it into the 19-9 game.
Welcome to the 19-9 podcast with HVS. I'm here with Dan Woods
What it do, baby?
and Josh Barnett.
What's up, sir?
And this evening, we're going to be talking about The Scheme. It is a recent documentary that was released on HBO. I don't know whose idea it was to do this one, so I'm just going to throw it out there to the both of you to kind of set this up. How'd you guys come to decide that we should talk about this?
Well, let's get to a couple quick hitters first.
Oh, yes, the quick hitters.
The quick hitters. You already forgot about our little segment called the quick hitters, and it's only been one podcast.
Do we need to start over?
No, we don't need to start over, man. It's good. Before we get into Scheme, though, I did want to throw a couple things out there. Number one, the movie Jump Shot is having its online release April 16th through 18th. They are some acquaintances of ours, Myron and I, and EJ got to go up there, and Brivogel too. Got to go and watch a premiere of that in Franklin, Indiana. When was that, Meyer? That was this winter.
It was cold
sometime.
out, yeah.
So we got to drive up there and watch the video or watch the movie, the premiere, and it's about our boy Kenny Sailors, who went to Wyoming and is credited with being the first guy to jump and shoot at the same time, which sounds kind of silly, but when you watch the movie, you realize there's a lot more to it than that, and there's a lot more to him than that too. And we thoroughly enjoyed our time watching it. And
in the end, it doesn't even matter if he invented it or not. Like, he was integral enough to it and his story is such a cool story that it's worth seeing the movie. But they do a compelling job of they had me convinced that he invented it.
Yeah, really good. And we got to get out to Wyoming for a game and check out that statue too. I'm a big statue guy.
Oh man, that's a cool one.
Second thing I wanted to get to was just all the games, the old games that they've been showing. I know we hit on that in our last pod that we talked about the 2003 National Championship game, but CBS, in lieu of having a tournament this year, they've at least broadcast a ton of Final Four games, tournament games, national championship games, and I've gotten to see a lot of stuff without having to search for it in decently high quality. So I've appreciated that. I'm sure you guys have partaken in some of that too.
And it's great that you don't have to like pick what you're going to watch. Somebody just force you like, oh shit, that was a good game. I'm going to watch that. Like, you just kind of forget about there's so many good games on that over the years that you're like, all right, I'm going to watch this one now. And it's been pretty cool.
I genuinely got excited the other day when I turned on 97 Arizona, Kentucky. I was like, all right, okay, here we go. This is it. This is something to do. Like, fired up. And then 88 Kansas and Oklahoma. I watched that the other night too. So just maybe
that 92 Final Four that you told me about. I was like, man, I had forgotten how you always think of just the Duke Kentucky game, but man, the rest of those matchups were amazing too.
Those Elite Eight matchups were
rattled that off.
Crazy. And then my final quick hitter is I want to do something for you guys out there that are listening to us and loyal customers of 99. I want to throw out a free ship code that you guys can use anytime on 99.com, which is HVS. So you type in HVS to the promo code slot, no matter if we're running deals or not that day, you can get free shipping just for being a listener, a loyal follower, and somebody who we hope is texting their neighbor to subscribe and like.
Please.
That promo code is HVS for all of you out there. And that's all I got. On to the pod.
Nice. That was nice.
Yeah, it was. All right, Dan, did you come up with this, or who had the idea to
I
watch
think
the scheme?
Josh and I were watching at the exact same time. Well, he was like 45 seconds ahead of me, which I made him slow it down for a second. And then we both like fell in love with the show within a matter of minutes. And we're like, this would be a great pod. And then you watched it. And I do think like when things like this obvious come up, like this is a great topic for us. I mean, it's awesome. It gives you, especially like being a big college basketball fan, where the FBI says, we know your playbook, we know this. And like truthfully, it was all a bunch of shit. And it comes out to,
Shit.
I mean, it literally, I mean, I don't want to say this because it makes the FBI and the NCAA look incompetent, and it's a cool perspective because you almost never get that perspective. And I thought it was
Yeah.
I think the documentary is high quality, and it had really good stuff that I never knew that side of it.
Agreed. I mean, it's funny the title of it. I wondered, it's one of those titles that you could be. Is it about the kid who had this scheme, or is it a broader, narrative about the whole thing is a scheme, right? The fact that the NCAA doesn't pay the players and makes all this money. I mean, it's just it is what it is too. It's just something that a social contract that we've all entered into and just kind of agreed to. And I thought it was really fascinating how they were willing to look at how some things can be criminalized and turned into something that seems so nefarious, and then other things which are basically doing the same thing, just get a different label and are just sanctioned. That's just the way it is.
Can we all agree that Christian Dawkins is a hustler in the greatest admiration sense of the word?
No doubt. Yeah, I mean, he even says it. I mean, the guy, like, the beginning of the is just kind of about him, is how young he was getting into that, like a 16-year-old as a GM for an AAU team.
Who
Like,
signed a shoe contract for
yeah,
that team?
exactly. Like,
He's the
I just
ultimate chameleon.
yeah,
Like he knew every room, every way to talk to people.
yeah,
He's one of the best self promoters I've ever seen. And I thought in the beginning they portrayed him kind of like a dumbass.
yeah,
And I was like, and then after a while, I'm like, he's the real deal. Like he got people to trust him. You know, whether you're a broke kid from the hood or a wealthy guy he got everybody to trust him, and that is he's one of the great salespeople
Dude,
I've ever seen.
he knew that the FBI stuff, he didn't know they were the FBI, right? But he knew what they were trying to do was complete bullshit and should not be done and didn't make any sense. And he's telling those coaches, just take these dudes' money. They're ignorant. Just take them. Just all you have to do is meet, take the money, and then go do whatever you want with it. It doesn't.
yeah.
It doesn't have to involve any players. It doesn't have to involve shit. I don't know why they're forcing us to do this, and they're concentrating on getting these few coaches that they want and stuff. It makes no sense to me. All you have to do is walk in this hotel room, talk to them for a few minutes, whatever money they put on the table, take it, and you don't have to do shit with it. He
Now,
knew
I
that.
I always wonder. So I'm curious what you guys think about this. Like, in these types of documentaries, who they try to set up as the kind of good guy, bad guy. Do you think that by telling his brother's story that they were trying to make him a more sympathetic character? Like, was that just, did you guys feel that was kind of inert and just needed to be told, or do you think that was them trying to tip the scales a little bit to make Christian the kind of more the hero of the story?
Go ahead,
Man,
Dan.
I'm trying. So I thought it was. I usually think these things are pretty slanted from whichever side you're giving it on. But
Mm-hmm.
I thought when Christian's lawyer was honest about everything, he's like, "Yeah, he's a runner. No, he's not
Yeah,
an agent." Like he basically didn't cover any bullshit. And
yeah,
then at the end, he was like, "The NCAA. These are NCAA rules. This isn't the law. This is bullshit."
yeah,
And I thought Christian was portrayed early as a dummy, and then after a while, like I got a feeling for it. The brother stuff was kind of a little much,
yeah.
but I think as a part of the whole story, it had to be given. The respect I have for him for not ratting people out
Fighting
is
it to the end.
yeah, and I respect people that believe that when they're right, they fight, and he didn't give a shit about paying people. He's like, this ain't about paying people, and he was right about that. It's been going on for
Yeah.
decades.
Hey, we got. Speaking of that, we got to give it a shout out to that Gottlieb podcast. If no one's listened to it, because I love that Eddie Sutton story. Do you guys remember that one from that podcast where he was on Titus and Tate?
No,
Yeah.
what's he say?
He goes in and he says that Eddie Sutton knew that he wasn't going to be long for Kentucky because the way they did it is that they would give coaches season tickets, and season tickets are like gold bricks for Kentucky
Yeah,
basketball.
remember that?
And so then he would hand the season tickets out to whatever shops in town, car dealer, whoever. And then when the players showed up, free slice of pizza, take whatever you want off the shelves. Here's the keys to the car. And the previous coach had like 1,000 or I don't know, some crazy number of tickets, and he got like 50. he was like, uh-oh, somebody didn't like me. So it's always been part of the game. However you want to, whether it's a bag of cash or like that. But I mean, it's been part of the hustle for college basketball for a long time.
So a few things we didn't get in the documentary, which would have helped balance it out, was we didn't get the NCAA to talk because they declined, and we didn't get the FBI to talk. Obviously,
none of the coaches either. They're not willing to come in there and like tell
right.
their side of it.
But the thing about it too was you keep having this cloud of the FBI saying we have these coaches, we have the tapes, and that was part of the pump up to this documentary was the tapes will be released, and you get Will Wade and you get Sean Miller, talking a little bit about some shit, but that's not really like home run stuff. And it's just like for somebody who just doesn't give a shit if people get paid to go to schools and all that stuff and just assumes that it goes on.
I mean, it's
very
not,
light.
Maybe not home run stuff, but I mean, again, if you want to be one of the people that says they don't, or the head coaches don't know,
who says they don't?
People try to. I mean, Pitino the last time prior to this tried to say he didn't know anything about the escorts. Like that was him, like literally out of his mouth. I don't know anything about that. And
no. Those people have too much to lose. You see this with our students all the time, Meyer. Deny.
Right,
now,
but this pulls the curtain back on that. Like Will Wade is on there saying like, hey, we had him, but we offered too much to his family and he wanted more for himself. I mean, that's as black and white as it gets. Like you can't be more
but
like
anybody that doesn't think that is
them.
going on in every university is an idiot.
No, yeah. And that was the other thing they talked about was the amounts even at like Creighton and some of the more mid-level schools.
My favorite thing is when like Wendell Carter goes to a strip club in Georgia Tech, and he gets like $10,000 to $15,000, and people are like shocked, and then he ends up at Duke, and then Kansas is caught saying Zion's at least 250, and he just happens to end up at Duke out of nowhere, and everybody's like, that Duke does it right by the bullshit. They got more money than anybody funneling them guys there, and everybody knows it.
Yeah.
Listen. If it's done right, the coaches don't have to know everyting about it. That's the way it's set up.
No, don't be naive. They're not. They're all in on it. There's no way, because you're not gonna just let all these other people play the parlor games. That's
control
the thing.
You can't control it.
That's the thing about these coaches, though. They're micromanagers. These guys aren't like
they got too much to lose.
They're not Phil Jackson's floating out there, just like, oh yeah, you guys do what you want to do. They're like they're telling these guys exactly what they want, who they want. Go get them, and these guys have to check in with them about like how much how high they're willing to go.
I think to an extent, but I think it's also out of sight, out of mind, and you can plead ignorance on it. I think there's a lot of insulation, a lot more insulation from it than what you would think.
None of those guys.
I don't believe that for a second.
The Dawkins phone call doesn't happen for the head coach anymore. I mean, if you look at
100%, they may not be on the phone, but there is a conversation that occurs. Like,
look at Romeo. I mean, do you think Romeo Langford's dad just magically coached an Adidas AAU team for $35,000 for a summer?
Shoe companies for sure. I mean, Yeah, I mean, I think the underbelly of the whole thing is just the shoe companies and how much
Oh,
they
for
can
sure.
Look at
control.
all
They
the
showed they
they were
showed that
talking about the
they showed that
money.
graph. Oh my god, that was crazy. And I thought that was kind of funny to be like, you work for Adidas. Like they sign you a contract for 100 what was it? Michigan was like $165 million or something crazy. And that Under Armour one, good grief for you UCLA 265. Whew.
Oh yeah, it's up there. I remember when that was signed. So one of the books that gets referenced is I'd forgotten about. It's like one of the first books that I actually read and liked was Soul Influence, and Dawkins mentions
I
that.
wrote that one down, yeah.
It's incredible. I read it 15, 20 years ago probably.
So it's worth a read.
What's that?
It's worth the read.
Yeah, because it's the beginning stages of your shoe companies kind of controlling stuff in college athletics and especially college basketball, obviously. It's interesting. It's really interesting. I wonder how dated it would be now reading it, but you would at least it'd almost read more like a history book probably.
Yeah. Where all this stuff started, where it came from.
Yep.
At least on
And
the shoe side.
well, I mean, even if you watch the 130 for 30 with Sonny Vaccaro or whatever, he was talking about when Nike came along and started going out and getting coaches, to have their players wear their shoes. That was back when maybe Boeheim at Syracuse was making, X amount of dollars, and then his contract with Nike was for $25,000 more. And so it was like what you were talking about.
Who do you work for?
Exactly. And playing both sides of it too, and then how can they benefit you? How can they help you? It's super interesting.
You just imagine this is how these guys, we wonder how these guys gets, jobs after they get fired. It's because of these backroom connections, right? Like I'm a Nike guy. They're going to help me get to another Nike school where I can, help them out, and they'll help me out. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It would be interesting to be in the cog to see how everything works, exactly how everything works. But we all have our assumptions, obviously.
The FBI had a chance to do something though, and they didn't do shit.
Well, there was a lot of flaws and holes in their shit too, though.
Yeah,
They
the
could,
the
but they could.
Vegas one's bad.
I mean, they kind of hint at it though. It does seem like at some point there had to have been some kind of broader deal with the FBI and the NCAA where they were like, look, there had to have been come to Jesus moment between the higher ups, because it just they kind of let things go by the wayside with Arizona, with Will Wade. Like they don't get anything. I
How
mean,
much?
man, like,
How much did they not want it to come to light of the stuff that happened in Vegas with the
Exactly.
D'Angelo guy?
100%. I mean, that's part of it. I'm sure they had part of, a reason as
Yeah,
well.
because Bill Self's worth $30 million, and he's not fucking folding.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, forget about it. I'm willing to go to the mattresses on this, and they did.
What's
I want
interesting about that though is that I can understand that if it is an NCAA issue, right? But this is the FBI. So how do these guys know that nothing's going to come of it? And you're standing up to the FBI. Like if the IRS, FBI, ATF knocks on my door, it's a little bit different than the fucking local sheriff knocking on my door.
Yeah, well, when you've got $30 million, it's called lawyers. You're calling your lawyers.
The
They're
FBI
talking. They're
can
talking
send
to the
it to New York.
FBI.
But
Yeah,
federal cases are like 98% slam
Right.
dunk. Like
that
they
up.
You
they
never
don't
have as much money as the federal government has.
they don't
Period.
indict unless they're winning too. Like they
No,
don't
I
lose.
know, but that's the thing. That's why, and it's a risk reward though. Like you were saying, like what is their reward? What do they end up doing? That's
Well,
why this whole
what
thing.
laws
That's why
are
I
they
said
breaking though?
that's what I mean. The whole thing. When I said the scheme
It's soft as
isn't.
shit.
The scheme isn't like these guys bribing kids to go to schools. The scheme is the larger structure. Like if they wanted to change things, I mean, the Congress should just write a law and be like, hey, you're going to have to, if you're going to make this amount or be classified as nonprofits, you're going to have to, either pay these guys or you can't you know,
But the
you can't
problem you're running into,
you can't be upset if they make money outside of, you know, your institution if you're going to still be they have rights too. And
everybody wants
that's
to
the thing.
everybody wants to claim foul in the NCAA, but they all abide by those rules, and they want the NCAA. If people want to disband the NCAA, they would, but they know that it's too valuable. They are more valuable than the NCAA, but none of them want to go. They want to cry wolf all the time, but none of them want to break away from it because they know they got the sweetheart deal of the world. All of them do. They're
Right,
not
yeah.
trying to leave that deal.
What's
No doubt.
the sweetheart deal?
That
What
the
deal does the NCAA provide that these colleges, Power 5 colleges, and presidents can't get together, ADs can't get together and do it on their own? I don't understand.
I think it's just the infrastructure.
It's
You
the
know, I
same.
think
It's
that
like Roger
it's
Goodell. Roger Goodell takes
the TV deals, like you have to, you know, to get. It's just like yeah, exactly like you're saying. Like the problem is like you could make a separate NBA. Like if some of the owners didn't like how things were going, like let's say the small market teams were pissed that all the, you know, Lakers and they're all getting all the free agents. Well, all the other teams could make another league, but you know, getting rich people to agree on things is not easy because they all think that their way is the right way. And so the tendency then is to just kind of go with what's working. If they're all making money right now, there is some danger that they might stop, you know,
and
Yeah,
everybody
you
keeps
you don't want to
blaming
kill
the NCAA.
the goose that laid the golden egg, but
Exactly.
I'm not
No.
sure that the NCAA is that goose, is what I'm saying.
Maybe not.
No, but the NCAA takes everything on the chin for everybody, and everybody kind of gets away with murder.
right.
I mean, the Big
So,
Ten's getting $63 million
yeah.
from
From
just
the
2
Big Ten
TV
network,
deals, the Big Ten Network and FS1 sports deals, and ain't
which they
nobody at IU,
negotiated on their own aside
Yep.
from the NCAA.
and
And no bad publicity.
ain't nobody in the Big Ten schools looking to pay people for it,
No.
whether it be athletes or anybody else. They're not trying. Nobody wants to pay them.
Yeah.
I'm with it on that.
Yeah.
And the NCAA is too big of a broad because the same way that I live 0.7 miles away from U of E, they ain't got a pot to piss in when you talk about everybody else. So the problem is they have such a broad brush that they use that, you know, U of E, if they don't have athletics for a while, I mean, they're in trouble. You know, they keep firing coaches and they don't get deals. They're going to be in trouble athletically. So it's just it has so many different layers to it that
Yeah.
makes it so difficult. And the Power Fives are such a different rule. I mean, I think they should pay the guys the TV revenue.
Yeah, they said that, and
all
they
new
said that
money.
in the documentary. They said they're not going to punish the real schools. That's how they
Hell
said it.
no. When's
The
the last
real
time a big
schools.
school got like legit punished?
IU maybe. To
For
bring up
some
your
phone
favorite.
calls
Yeah, no doubt.
that now
Not even
is
phone
not
calls,
illegal.
there's some text messages, man.
But
Text
lying
messages.
lying is what gets you in so much trouble in that because they can't prove
100%
anything.
Bruce Pearl, Tennessee.
Yeah.
You can't
But
lie to these motherfuckers if they get you. You just tell the
No
truth
doubt.
and then just say, like, I mean,
Get
even
out
if
ahead
you
of
cheat,
it, right?
even if you cheat, like, yeah, I
Yeah,
cheated.
get out ahead of it. Yeah.
I apologize. Sorry, guys. But
Okay, so
you know who you should look into is this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy.
I've got an assistant coach who
I promise to God, if I ever get questioned by
didn't really
anybody,
like the
if I ever get questioned by anybody on anything, I'm like, you need to look at fucking Dan Woods and Aaron Meyer.
that's fine.
Ditto. Hey, okay, Barnett, as a fan of The Wire, I got to ask you that I'm going to pose this question to you. Why in the world did Christian not have a burner phone? Like what's going on there? He doesn't think to like use that at some point or just have one. He's got the, like you called him a hustler or a runner. Like why? What's he doing with all these like traceable smartphones, like putting other people's Amex cards in his Uber account? Like, I don't know. I know, man. He comes off as pretty shady there, I have to say.
So Ubergate was kind of weird. That was just like a hard thing to kind of explain away. It was just like I think like a fuck up. You know what I mean? Just being young and just I don't really fully understand it. But back to the burner phone thing, I believe that he doesn't have a burner phone. The fact that he doesn't, or the fact that he's not taking more steps to protect himself or cover his tracks and shit, tells you either a couple things. Number one, that he truly believed that nothing he was doing was wrong, and probably ties into number two that it's so prevalent and it's so rampant that there's 100 Christian Dawkins out there that are doing the same thing. So, if you're accustomed to seeing something every day and doing something every day, and everybody's doing it, why take extra necessary security steps
Yeah,
when it's
but
no big deal?
okay, though. I gotta say that once you start seeing large amounts of cash, like I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I've never seen $50,000 in cash. And if someone put that in front of me, I would be
Meyer, we work at a fucking middle school.
well, I know, but that's what I'm saying. But I mean, this guy's dad was a coach. Like, he's not coming from money. Like, he's never seen that
Yeah,
amount of
he
money.
He
Like,
signed his shoe deal at 16.
no, but that not that kind of cash though. Once people start throwing that, like just putting that stuff on the table.
Meyer,
I
let's
mean,
be honest.
you need to be.
A record deal while he was on trial with the largest record company in the
I think
world.
yeah, but this is after he also realized like how the game was really played. Like, he knew at that point that we're rewinding now.
Had been getting rich white people to give him money for a decade.
Not that amount. And the fact that it did not he didn't even realize that it was a big deal until his other buddy was like, "Hey, you should look into these guys. Like, this is not, this seems sketchy." And then he calls one person and then he's like, "Oh, we're good." Like, he wanted this to be true. Like, this is a kid who saw this as his big break. He wants it to be true and just like puts the blinders on after one guy gives him the green light. He comes off, I think, as like super naive in this.
What do you think he got paid to get 2 first-round draft picks to an agency? You ain't talking about $50,000 there either.
No, I agree. No, it's not the amount.
World than we can fathom.
No. I mean, the it's not the amount of money. It's like when you start dealing in cash, like that is where it becomes, I think, an oddity. And I think
College is
recognized
dealing traveler's checks.
No, I mean, I think what Dan was saying is like when you deliver it to an agency, like they're gonna put the money in your bank account. They're not just putting cash.
Well,
I think
he knew. I think
that's weird.
The tapes prove that he knew that like something was weird with these dudes. But he was like, if these idiots want to keep throwing me money, I'm just going to keep taking the shit.
But that's I guess why you're saying. But you said he shouldn't have didn't see the reason to protect himself. Like, that was the time then to start protecting himself. Like,
right,
man, start protecting yourself. Get the burner phone.
I think he felt like he had the upper hand on those guys. So I think you know what I mean?
That's a classic mistake. Again, if you
sure.
watched an episode of The Wire, he would have known.
But he also believes, and he says it, that he didn't think he was doing anything wrong because he didn't break any laws by paying those guys.
But thinking you're not doing anything wrong is a classic way to get yourself into trouble.
But Dan Wetzel says it exactly right. If Google gave those guys $10,000 to come do some coding in the summer, what law did they break?
You're arguing like ethics when that doesn't matter. I mean,
I'm arguing what law did he break by giving high school kids money to play basketball?
Well, according to the FBI, bribery. They came up with bribery charges.
Absolute horse shit that's watched that movie.
Yeah,
like, that's the thing. He didn't believe he was doing, like, by law, didn't think he was doing things wrong.
I just think like when you get into those situations, like you have to have, you have to, like, he had all these connections, all these people. Like, how about you get a connection with a lawyer? I mean, he had, you know what I mean? Like, start asking questions. Like, this seems there were some red flags. He started to realize some things. He just seemed to want it so bad that he was or felt that these guys were so stupid that he could just take advantage of them. I mean, that's just you're just setting yourself up for, a fall.
He's also not 40 years old like we are.
No, but I guess that's what I'm saying. Maybe that's not on him. Maybe it's on those coaches. Maybe if they had talked, they actually thought, like, knew he was getting himself into hot water and were just taking advantage of him. And they're like, this guy's going to get in trouble. I'm going to take his money.
everybody in the coaches.
Well, sure.
the
Once they were
grassroots
once
guys.
removed, right? They were removed. They were just getting it from some kid. They're like, oh yeah, he's fine. He's got his little agency. I'm gonna just take money from him. I don't know why he's giving it to me, but whatever.
Those guys all know what they're doing. It's so crazy that it's just like everybody knows it, and it's just in the NCAA rules. Like it makes me laugh about how they just talked about NCAA rules are not laws that we have to abide by. And I thought that was so, and I never looked at it from that perspective. Like they said that they were defaming or they're defrauding the schools, like literally hand delivering players there. And I thought the telltale sign when I knew that Dawkins was connected is that he has a normal phone call with Will Wade and Sean Miller. And it was like two guys that have done stuff many times having normal conversations about just anything in general, and those guys were talking in code about paying people, and those guys like, well, we didn't know. I never dealt with Christian Dawkins. Those guys knew him by a cell phone first name basis.
Yeah.
And they lied through their teeth, and there's nothing that's ever going to be done about it.
No doubt, yeah, and I mean that's again. I think that's the difference between who's coming after you, right? Like the NCAA at some point just decided like we're not going after these guys. It doesn't matter. I think a while, I don't know who it was. Might have been one of our social worker at school asked me like what was going to happen to Bill Self, and some of these guys like Will Wade had already were back coaching, and I was like nothing's going to happen to him. They're not doing anything to that guy.
So I'll pose the question.
He's bigger than an investigation. He's got to hurt somebody or do something unethical to get himself fired.
Two things. The first one is when Dawkins talks about those guys were tipped off to publicly stand there and answer those questions. Do you think those guys were publicly tipped off because they knew the FBI wasn't going to come at them?
I think so. I think there's no doubt that there were some backroom dealings with some lawyers at that point. Like I don't know what happened, or if they had gotten wind of the FBI guy somehow that had gotten himself caught up in some of this by skimming money or whatever he did. D'Angelo, who had to go see his sick mother in Sicily, but that got a little weird there, and I think
that was so strange.
They must have known something there and not wanted it to come out, and they're like, look, here's what we're gonna do. You're gonna help us kind of put a bow on this. We're gonna let these guys go, but we've got this. Kind of like how like who was it, Hoover back in the day with all the communism stuff would just keep a file on, would keep a file on these guys. We got a file on you, and they could bring it out if they want to, but it's just like, is it, we can wait till it's worth it or till the right time.
And the last question, how bad did the FBI botch the Vegas stuff?
Jeez. I can't imagine. How does, I don't know. That gets into like a bigger question. I can't even talk about it. I was apoplectic.
Ain't getting shot, Meyer. You're in Jasper. Nobody gives a shit.
No. I was just saying. I was apoplectic. Like I just don't even have words for just how crazy that was. Like what is happening? How did that? It's like a terrible movie that got made. Like how did that get greenlit? Like what? I think about like how government works or how schools work. Like we have all these documents to fill out to get a bus for a field trip. Like how's it work at the FBI that you get a suite and just cash money greenlit? Like that seems just what's happening?
Yeah, how much money do they spend on this bogus investigation?
Wild millions, right?
I mean, he had 90 grand sitting in his house from this shit.
Yeah,
and that was just the tip of it.
Yeah,
I mean, who was looking at funding? Like that's where my questions go so deep in this. Like, there's so many rabbit holes on that.
All the wiretaps, all the hours of the person listening to the wiretaps.
That's the number one takeaway for me is what you just said. I'm glad you said it because I would have spaced it and forgot to mention it. But can't our paying dollars or our tax dollars, can't that be spent somewhere better than a witch hunt on college athletics?
I don't know. That's why they don't really explain like where the genesis of this, came from. Like, why did they see fit to go after, to go about this? Like, I would be curious, like, what the, usually there's something more nefarious going on. Like maybe the money is going to fund like terrorism or the mafia. And even Dawkins says at one point, maybe these guys are mafia. Like that would have seemed like, more realistic reason for the FBI to be involved. Like the mafia was trying to fund Dawkins to bribe coaches. Like that would have been
like
deal.
point shaving and shit,
right?
Though.
Yeah. Well, I know, but that could seem really legit to go after. But
that's happening. That's happened in college basketball.
I know, and this just seemed like I don't even understand like how the investigation got
off the ground.
Brought forward. And like they said, I mean, the Southern District of New York, like that, they don't mess around. Like that's like, you got something from them. It's like
Bernie Madoff. That's
exactly
like that is like, we are bringing everything we have to fuck you.
Dan said the quote of the show, "We have your playbook." Like,
right.
That's if I was the NCAA or any coach, like when this stuff came out, I was like, "Oh my god!"
Oh
like,
shit!
I was like, "This could be it."
Do you guys remember when that came out?
Oh yeah, hell yeah! Thought it was the end of college basketball.
I thought it was over. I was talking about like here's what they need to do. They need to break off the teams from the schools and declare them professional, minor leagues, and they'll still be tangentially associated with the school. And, there's got to be some way to do it.
Something going on today. We just think it's crazy.
God, I had it, Dan. I had it on the tip of my tongue, and I reserved it too. Like, well, Meyer, you've been known to kind of jump the gun on some of these things.
Oh, no.
You teed it up for us. I had it ready to go too.
No. Yeah, no, not an overreaction on that. That's different. That's life and death. This
time will tell.
Your whole point of this is that it's not the stakes are low. What are we doing? Like it's already baked into the cake. This is how it works. Like you can either just change the rules or let it go on as it has for generations. Like, what are we doing?
When I say that, I'm joking, but I also believe that the society we live in now, we want to make the massive splash, and we don't care about the ripple effects down the road. And that comment to, "We have your playbook." I mean, dude, all these dudes have been paying players had to be like, "All right, man, who the fuck is going to get me in trouble? Who could I separate from?" Like, what is it? World Wide West is connected to everybody. That's like 20 years ago. That's such a great GQ article, by the way.
So good.
It's a really, really cool thing that everybody should read.
I read that and I'm like, well, you won't be winning shit for about the next 25 years.
Yeah. When he walks up, so I remember the Olympics, they said in a tweet said, everybody has on their outfits, and so does World Wide West. He has a player issued Team USA warm up on. It's like, oh, okay.
I remember him popping up. I was at a bar in Indy, and he popped up at the Malice at the Palace, like being the peacemaker of it. I'm like, oh my god, the fucking World Wide West over there. Like,
and then the NCAA tried to bar him from events, and guys like, do you realize like every coach is best friends with that guy?
Yeah, wow. Now he's what? He's in the Knicks organization, right?
I don't know. I'm not sure if he actually did make it in there or not. I can't remember. There was some kind of
I would say this podcast
confusion.
Would be a great thing if we could ever get World Wide West on at one time. Just to get like a 20 minutes of like.
The dude didn't even do an interview for GQ, buddy. I don't think he's coming on HVS.
He might be a hipster. He just wants to shout out the little guys.
If he knew the amount of licensing deals we had lined up, he might be on board.
I'm gonna tell you one thing. If he knew that we were sponsored by A-Zip Pizza, maybe that's what it takes to get him on this pod.
A-Zip Pizza is a build-your-own pizza place in Indiana and Kentucky. They have unique pizzas each month, like the Hot Little Clucker, a Nashville hot chicken pizza, and a ton of ingredients you can choose from to create something delicious on your own. Order online for curbside delivery at azippizza.com/order.
Attaboy, that was a good one.
Nailed the Clucker that time, man.
Yeah, I had it that time.
It just has so much draw. You're like, is he gonna get it right? Is he gonna get it right? And he does.
Really hoping next month's pizza is easier to say.
I get so nervous every time he goes into it. I've been nervous twice.
By the way, everybody should watch this. If you're a college basketball fan or if you're an amateur athletics fan, I think this is an awesome documentary. It's well done.
It is fun, like the way that they definitely have a ton of production quality. Like the way they line up, even though the coaches aren't in it, the way they line up their faces with the audio going on each side, and it is compelling to watch for sure. And the Dawkins guy does make for an interesting kind of character study, where it's just like, I think you guys hit it on the head. Like he's just a peon in all of this, but it kind of gives you a blueprint for how things work, right? The agents have their runners, a variety of them. These guys are all connected in through the shoes and through, funneling these guys to pro teams. I mean, that just the numbers they listed are a perfect analogy, right? $50,000 to make 5 million, or, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's just an investment. And when you got enough money, you're willing to spend. You got to spend money to make it, right?
The thing that I like about it is everybody should have their say, and everybody should have their day to kind of get their story out there. So even if this was slanted, even if this was one-sided, even if this was supposed to portray Christian as one thing, the FBI had their day, and it was that bullshit ass press conference where they came up there and acted like the big badasses of the world, and that they were going to take down the entire shebang. So we have that. This balances that out. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle.
Well, he did. I mean, and he deserves the right to, tell his side of it after 12 months in federal penitentiary. I mean, oof, that's a tough one to stomach.
Fuck that.
Yeah.
I'm singing like a fucking bird.
Yeah.
Go check Dan Woods, Aaron Meyer.
Those other guys flipped real quick. They're like, who was that one shady guy? What was the guy's name?
Marty guy.
Yeah, man, that guy flipped so quick. He's like, hold up. Don't take me to jail. I'm going to get you somebody here.
Excuse me. What was that you just said? Why don't you have a seat over there?
Exactly.
I've got a story to tell you.
That was a crazy part of we didn't even really hit on that, but that was a crazy part of the documentary where he's sitting there and he's like, I want a lawyer. And then they come in with like machine guns trained on him. I was like, holy cow. Like that definitely would, he's like, it took my shirt off at that point. I was like, yeah,
that'd be stressful.
Wow.
And you're just a college basketball runner, and you have machine guns pointed at your face.
Oh my God, I know.
What a time to be alive.
No doubt. El Chapo, he was right below El Chapo then.
Crazy.
It is crazy.
Christ. What are we doing, people? What are we doing?
What are we doing? I got ideas. We can talk about ideas to how to keep them associated with the college and pay these guys if that's the way we need to go. Let's just get it out, and let's get it out in the open, right? I think
that could be an interesting podcast there.
Yeah. Let's talk it out, because I think there's stuff out there where we can make this happen, keep it associated with the schools, and pay these guys and not have to worry about it.
Well, nobody's going to have to worry about it if the coronavirus ends college football, because there's not going to be any money to pay anybody if that shit.
They'll play it in the spring. I promise you, they're not going to not let football play if they can.
Well, we'll see.
That'd be interesting.
Budgets.
We'll see. The MLB and the NBA are going to have the first crack at it here, and we'll see how.
Chomping at the bit too, aren't they?
I'm still hoping for. Did you hear about the horse competition?
Yeah, lame.
That's so stupid.
Well, hey, I'm ready for anything.
Quarantine them in Vegas and play it there would be absolutely awesome.
I mean, I'm 100% in on that.
Be amazing.
Somebody threw some shade at that though. They said, that like NBA especially is so worried about their image. Like, what is it going to look like if they have to move like a ton of medical staff to to Vegas to just take care of these guys?
I'll tell you what it'll look like
for games.
Money.
I know
the amount of TV.
I
Their
know.
ratings would be through the roof.
I know, but
And you would hear those guys chirping each other. Oh my God, it would be
Yeah.
so awesome. Give it to me right now. Like put it in
Yeah.
my veins.
I know these guys. I don't know. They're worried about that
If
public
anybody would
perception.
do it, it's Adam Silver, and I love that little dude.
Yeah, I think there's a shot at it. I think, but I do think that's how it's going to happen if it does. That they're all gonna. That's just gonna. I think it's just gonna be the playoffs, and I think it's just gonna be the playoff teams in Vegas. And I think that makes sense. I think it's
The
dumb.
World Wide West.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's dumb to bring all the
calling the
teams
games.
back together. Like, why do the Bulls need to come back this year? Like, I'm good. I saw that team plenty this year. They stink.
Let's
Let's get on the playoffs.
Guys, it was a fun Sunday night with you guys.
Yeah,
It'd be more fun when we get back in person.
Oh,
doubt.
Fridays after work and a beer are the best days of my
oh
life.
man.
But now with
doubt.
pizza here too.
Oh my gosh.
God,
I know,
Buffalo,
We're
man.
never leaving. We got to get the Dan. They got to deliver the Dan to
the
us.
Big Dan is what's going
The
to
big Dan.
We'll figure it out.
All right, guys.
Mustache. I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, boys.
Oh,